Howdy folks, Max Mogren here, Off News Weekend Edition. If it disturbs you that I'm not wearing a suit and tie, not clean shaven, this might not be the news show for you. Here at Off News, we strive to not give a fuck while simultaneously caring a lot. Kind of ironic, as is much about modern life. It's August 16th, 2013. Once again, picking on USA Today. It's been a while since I've done one of these. I've had a big project in the works the last couple months, and that's finally ready to launch. So I'm excited to get back to doing these semi-weekly. Again, breaking it down. We love to pick on USA Today because it is the worst newspaper in the country, if not the world. They print almost 2 million of these every week, or every day. Aside from the weekend, they do a 3-day paper because they're so lazy. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday edition is what I've got here in my hands. Breaking it down, we've got 5 pages of news, but 77% of that news is fluff. 2 pages of opinion, 1 page of weather, 6 pages of entertainment, 7 pages of sports, making 13 pages of bread and circuses, 4 pages of money, which is 75% fluff. Surprisingly, only 3 pages of advertising, big half-page, full-page ads, for a total of 28 pages. 13 pages of that are sports and entertainment, meaning the paper is about 50% overt bullshit. And then the news and money, about 75% of that is fluff, meaning there's really only 2 pages of news, giving us a total of 93% utter nonsense in this weekend's edition of USA Today. Let's get right into it. Sports. Briefly, there's nothing in here of any value whatsoever. It's a distraction. All the pro sports are a distraction. One of my jobs, I'm a bartender, and we've got 7 TVs in the bar. It is amazing how many different channels there are devoted to sports. And most of these sports channels, it's just dudes sitting around in suits, looking very professional, but just talking about asinine juvenile topics. They're not even, most of these networks don't even broadcast sports so much as they just broadcast commentary about sports. Moving on, USA Today Life. Getting through the easy sections first. Again, this is all entertainment. Multiple pages of entertainment. Interestingly, a big plug in the travel section for DuBois, Wyoming. DuBois, Wyoming, just up the hill from us here. And then on the next page, a plug, a big picture for Teton Valley, Idaho. So, USA Today doing its part to bring more tourists here to Jackson Hole. In my opinion, I think we've got enough. Moving into the main section, okay? Always good to really analyze the front page of a newspaper, okay? Header is nonsense. We got sports, we got entertainment, sneaking beyond their sections into the news section. Headline story, Major League Baseball makes history by expanding instant replay. You gotta be fucking kidding me. That's your headline story? Not only that, but, story continues on 2A. The second page is entirely devoted to the same story. So, there's your news, America. USA Today just wants you distracted. Okay? Military sex abuse fix takes on flack. Critics say Pentagon must change culture. I agree, but sexual abuse isn't the only abuse the Pentagon does. Basically, they abuse all of humanity by being the largest terrorist organization on the planet. State-sponsored terrorism. Most Americans are paranoid about the military. We don't like the military. The military is spying on us and blowing people up with drones all over the world. So, not a fan of the Pentagon. Sex abuse is the least of their offenses there, but very bad. Interesting, catching rays here. Solar energy capacity added in 2012. California, 1,000 megawatts. Each megawatt can power 1,000 homes for a year. So California, according to USA Today, put together enough solar capacity to run 1 million homes for a year. I think that's pretty cool. I'm a proponent of suppressed free energy technologies. I'm not opposed to solar. It's funny with solar panels are made out of aluminum frames, silicone filaments, and a glass cover over the top. Those are cheap materials, Pop cans are made out of aluminum. Windows are made out of glass. And all sorts of stuff is made out of silicone. Silicone is basically sand. So solar panels should be cheap. The only reason they're not is due to corruption. Tense Egypt girds for more protests. So this is interesting. Death toll tops 600 as Obama cancels joint military operations. Okay, there's a clusterfuck going on in Egypt right now. They had a coup against the democratically elected Muslim Brotherhood leader, Morsi, and they're killing Muslims. Generally, the people who are supporting Morsi and protesting right now in the wake of this coup are Muslim Brotherhood members. So, members of Islam, of this death toll topping 600, the majority of the people killed, I would imagine, are the protesters supporting Morsi, who are generally Muslim. But here, USA Today, always willing to spin a story. Under attack, Christians targeted. So remember, 600 mostly Muslim protesters killed. USA Today decides to do a feature story on Christians in the crosshairs. This is your classic divide and conquer propaganda, trying to turn Christians and Muslims against each other. So we know about 600 Muslim supporters of the president who was recently given the boot were killed. What about these Christian attacks? Okay, 4 Christians were killed in a village. There's one attack, okay? Another attack, the next day thousands of people ransacked Christian home and stores, no deaths reported. And then an Orthodox priest was murdered last month. That's all the info. So here in this article talking about Christians being in the crosshairs, I can only find 5 actual deaths, and 4 of them are directly stated that they were done as like a hate crime against Christians. So, I don't know about that. The whole Egypt situation stinks. I don't really know what to say about it. I have read a few good articles, and I'll put one below. Global Research doing great coverage on this situation. They're smarter on this sort of thing than I am. So check out that article for more info on the Egypt situation. Page 2, again, just fluff, 95% fluff on this page. Interesting, UPS jet had no signs of engine failure before crash, okay? I'm going to put a link below. My friend in France, Max Bliss, was recently contacted by a chemtrail, geoengineering, weather warfare whistleblower, guy on the inside of the airlines in Europe. And this guy talks about the technical aspects. I'm curious if this UPS jet had technical difficulties because of the modifications for the aerial spray programs. Howdy folks, back again after a few camera technical difficulties. Moving on to page 3. While we're on the topic of geoengineering, the aerial spray programs, weather modification, weather warfare, this isn't really news because it happened months ago, but the Moore, Oklahoma tornadoes in the paper again makes you wonder if the government has the technology to manipulate the weather that was funded with our tax dollars, developed decades ago. Either they're not using it, which I doubt because you can see evidence of it in the sky regularly. They're very bad at using it because we're having record natural disasters, or in fact, these technologies are being used to create disasters as a form of disaster capitalism and a way to push through laws and massive societal changes designed to get people behind the climate change situation. Climate's changing. I don't know why, but I do know that taxes on carbon emissions are not the solution. I do know that those taxes will enrich the corrupt. So moving on, not really news, but the geoengineering thing really fascinates me, and I hope you're interested in it too. More not news, rest in peace Martin Luther King, but where the physical copy of your speech resides is not news, as is the death of Elvis, most certainly not news. Martin Luther King, anybody can go on YouTube and watch the speech in its entirety anytime they want. The words are more important than where the pieces of paper are. And more not news, we found a mammal. Meanwhile, record extinction. We are in the middle of a mass extinction event. So the finding of one mammal species, not news. Bradley Manning made it in. Surprisingly, they didn't put the picture of him allegedly cross-dressing in the paper. Manning, as we all know, brave American hero, exposed war crimes, and facing 90 years in prison for his heroic efforts. State by state. As usual, 90% fluff here in State by State. What do we got? D.C. Police arson detectives have launched a criminal investigation into 2 ambulance fires amid a deteriorating labor dispute between firefighters and the city. That's interesting. Massachusetts, Boston, the state trooper who leaked arrest photos of the Boston Marathon bombing suspect is back on patrol. State police spokesman confirms Sergeant Murphy has been assigned to the Athol barracks in north central Mass. Okay, let's not forget the Boston bombing, all the lies, blatant lies in that story. This state trooper who leaked the photos here who he released show that this kid was getting out of the boat without a neck wound, and that somebody slit his throat or made it so he couldn't speak or shot him in the neck. I don't know what happened. After he surrendered. Remember, he did not have a weapon in the boat, and odds are those 2 brothers were patsies designed to take a fall on a false flag, inside job, terror attack. Okay? Montana, Blackfeet officials said oil and gas leases near a mountain sacred to the tribe have been canceled. Last week's news that the Blackfeet Tribal Business Council had leased land near Chief Mountain on the border of Glacier National Park had led to anger and protests among tribal members. Okay, they're talking about fracking there. Not good. Poisoning our groundwater to get energy that we don't actually need because suppressed technologies and other renewables could replace them. Fargo, North Dakota. More than 100 emergency responders have been practicing here and in Moorhead, right across the border, for a possible disaster. The National Guard's 81st Civilian Support Team, based in Bismarck, leads the week-long exercise, which focuses on a mock World Energy Forum meeting in the Fargo metro area. Interesting. See what happens with that. As we all know, anytime one of these false flag attacks happens, there's always a drill going on simultaneously. Washington, Seattle. A few things will be different at this year's Hemp Fest, the 22-year-old summer protestival where tens of thousands of revelers gather to use dope, listen to music, and gaze at the Olympic mountains. Sounds like a good time. The haze of pot smoke might smell a little more like victory after the state legalized marijuana use by adults over 21. Okay, marijuana legalization, probably a good thing because it cures cancer, and hemp can fulfill a lot of our needs currently being met by fossil fuels and cutting down trees. Okay? Healthcare how to, 67 million boost for those who help navigate Obamacare. Okay, that's PR for the scam that is Obamacare. The whole healthcare system is a scam. A lot of treatments have been suppressed because they're not profitable. Healthcare is the quickest growing sector of the American economy, and the government wants its cut. If the government really wanted affordable health care for people, all they would have to do is legislate effectively and uphold those laws, hold the hospitals and insurance companies to those laws. Instead, the government is just getting its paws in the honey pot. Okay? Once again, Egypt's Christians in the crosshairs. Divide and conquer bullshit. 630 protesters killed. Most of them were not Christians because they were supporting Muslim Brotherhood President Morsi, who just got ousted by a military coup. Bear in mind that the U.S. gives Egypt $1.5 billion in military aid every year. What's Obama say? I'm going back to the article on page 1. We don't take sides with any particular party or political figure, Obama said. That's a task for the American people. We want a peaceful, democratic, prosperous Egypt. That's our interest. Blah, blah, blah. And this is interesting here. The Obama, I don't even know what the sentence means, but it's interesting. The Obama administration has not called the ouster a military coup, which would trigger an end to financial aid to economically ailing Egypt. Okay? Obama supported this military coup, but they're not calling a military coup. And condolences to all the Egyptians suffering right now, and the 600 people who died in the fighting yesterday. Moving on to the money section. Okay, podcasting, not news. Podcasting, yep, it works. It's been around for a long time. Hackers assault major media sites. Syrian electronic army attacks. Okay? They're blaming Syria for this. I highly doubt that's the case. As we all know, the civil war in Syria is actually a foreign invasion trying to topple one of the few countries that doesn't have a Western-controlled central bank. Remember, he who controls the money supply controls the nation. Okay? Moving on, is market story turning a page? Investors are worried. Is the bullish stock market story that Wall Street's been writing about the last 4 years about to change to a new, darker chapter? Let's ask the Federal Reserve, since they rigged the stock market. All of this time, when the Federal Reserve is inching closer to the start of a less market-friendly policy. The Fed, thanks to a bond buying program that's kept interest rates low, has been a friend of the market. But with the job market and economy improving, the day is nearing when the Fed cuts back on its asset purchases. Nobody knows precisely when. Why? Because the Fed operates with impunity and no oversight. Fed Chairman Ben Bernanke is expected to step down in January, but it's unclear who will replace him. We don't know what the policy is, and we don't know who will make the policy, says Scott Kodoke, Chief Investment Officer at Cumberland Advisors. So remember, the Fed has been printing about $85 billion a month, using it to buy up real estate, fund the government, and inflate the stock market. The game's rigged. The stock market will crash when the Fed wants it to. You know, these I'll put in a quote here from Charles Lindbergh, the famous aviator who was also a senator from my home state. Rigged economy. The free market is rigged. The global casino is controlled by bankers. So, not very democratic, not a free market. When some people are above the law and the accountability the rest of us are held to does not apply to them. What do I mean by that? Well, when the Federal Reserve pulls $85 billion a month out of its ass to buy money, who do they get it from? Who do they pay interest to? Nobody. So they're above the policies they enact that the rest of us are expected to follow. Okay, this really grinds my gears here. U.S. markets, what to watch? Housing starts, this is all just crap. We got, there's always an ad for a goddamn car in here. That's a full page ad there as well. USA markets, what to watch? Housing starts report building investor interest. It takes a heap of housing to make the economy hum, and that's why all eyes will be on today's release of the statistics of July housing starts. Okay? Denk estimates that July will have had about 900,000 housing starts. That's new houses starting construction versus 836,000 in June.
Much of June's disappointing numbers was because of unusually wet weather, Denk says. Okay? 900,000 new houses being built in the United States in July. Almost 900,000 in June. Okay? People, let's bear in mind that here in the United States, there are currently 6 times more empty houses than there are homeless people. Okay, these are bank-owned houses that are just sitting empty. So why the fuck do we need to build 900,000 new houses this month? Right? Think of where all that manpower and resources and money, frankly, which is a made-up thing, don't forget. But think of where all that could be invested instead of into building more, suburban tract homes and condos and basically totally worthless housing units that we do not need. That money could be used to build greenhouses to fund small-scale organic agriculture, replacing the poisonous industrial agriculture and the genetically modified foods that I believe are having a horrible impact on not only our environment, but our health. I lost the page. Just 1 second. I'll be right back. Got ahead of myself. Back to the main section. Definitely a few more pages here. Weather on the back page. They neglect to mention that the weather is being manipulated. And we're almost done. Wrapping it up pretty quick here. In the opinion section, 2 pages. Okay. Ethanol. Rising ethanol quotas pump more money from your pocket. So that we got the R view, opposing view. Surprisingly, USA Today is actually saying that ethanol is a bad idea. This year, and it's mandated is the key thing to understand. Ethanol quotas by the year, right now, this year, we have to use 17 billion gallons of ethanol. By 2022, we have to use 36 billion gallons of ethanol in the United States. That's how the law is on the books. There's your free market right there. Very rigged. This year, the mandate requires 16.6 billion gallons of ethanol, absurdly consuming 37% of the nation's corn crop and requiring farmland roughly equal to the size of Kentucky. Okay, this article is very interesting. It goes into it quite a bit. But the point is, it's absurd to be converting almost 40% of our corn crop into a fuel that we don't need. Solar panels and hydrogen works. Suppressed energy technologies work. More fuel efficient conventional motors work. There are so many ways to improve our energy system that don't involve using genetically modified corn and a whole shit ton of chemical pesticides and fertilizers, growing this crap, and instead of using it to feed all the people that are starving in the world, we take 37% and turn it into alcohol and then process it so we can run it in our cars. It's absurd. And what's funny, this actually says that ethanol drives up the price of gas due to renewable identification numbers, RINs. Under the bizarre ethanol law, each RIN that a refiner acquires is a gallon of ethanol that they don't have to use. So these refineries will buy RINs. It's like a carbon tax, but for ethanol. They buy a RIN so they don't have to blend their fuel with ethanol. Those RINs have cost a few pennies last year, have traded for as much as $1.40 this year because of the mandate. Major refiners have spent hundreds of millions of dollars on RINs, enriching speculators and passing along additional costs in the form of higher fuel prices. Next year, the purchase of RINs will push up the price of a gallon of fuel by 20 cents to $1. So it's a scam. These RINs are a scam. If you don't want to ruin your engine burning ethanol in it, if you're a refiner and you want to make high quality fuels that aren't going to ruin people's engines, you have to pay a premium, you have to pay a penalty, and that goes to the government and the agricultural lobbies. So, big time scam, big time scam. Just more fluff in here. There's a pretty good cartoon as usual. It shows a guy from the DOJ, Department of Justice, shows Holder in his DOJ briefcase talking with US Air and American, two airlines that are trying to merge. Holder says, "We will fight the merger of your two airlines. That, something that big, would stifle competition, reduce services, and raise costs for consumers." And the US Air executive quips back, "That didn't stop Obamacare." Okay? I don't like the airlines because they're complicit in the geoengineering, the spraying of chemicals in our atmosphere. I don't like Holder and the Justice Department either. And I'm glad that they're kind of at odds. You know. So, long story short, that's your news for today. Again, USA Today, perhaps the worst paper in human history. 93% nonsense. 28 pages, only 2 pages really of news. And arguably that information is not trustworthy. You know, the corporate media is not telling you the truth. Just remember that. I'm trying to tell you the truth to the best of my ability. I'm just one guy. Y'all have a great day. Take care. One love. Peace. Stop. What in fudge sickle?